So, page 1, chapter 1, Bill's story. War fever ran high in the New England town to which we knew young officers from Plattsburgh were assigned, and we were flattered when the first citizens took us into their homes, making us feel heroic. Here was love, applause, war, moments sublime with intervals hilarious. I was part of life at last. And in the midst of the excitement, I discovered liquor. I forgot the strong warnings and the prejudices of my people concerning drink. In time, we sailed for over there. I was very lonely and again turned to alcohol. We landed in England. I visited Winchester Cathedral. Much moved, I wandered outside. My attention was caught by a doggerel on an old tombstone. Here lies a Hampshire grenadier who caught his death drinking cold small beer. A good soldier is never forgot, whether he dieth by musket or pot. Ominous warning, which I failed to heed. 22 and a veteran of foreign wars, I went home at last. I fancied myself a leader, for had not the men of my battery given me a special token of appreciation? My talent for leadership, I imagined, would place me at the head of vast enterprises which I would manage with the utmost assurance. So I have a few notes and a few highlights on that page. I love Bill's story. So the big one that I have highlighted is I was lonely and again turned to alcohol because that was definitely something that I could relate to. But also there's a few little tidbits in there that I noticed. So one was that I forgot the strong warnings and the prejudices of my people concerning drinks. To me, that seems like a little bit of an indication that maybe somebody else in his family had struggled with alcohol and maybe they had warned him against it prior to him picking up his first drink. And then I see a little bit of a chip on his shoulder or a little bit of ego forming, at the bottom where he fancies himself a leader. And, even in that top where there was love and applause, he really liked that attention. And I know a bunch of you are going to discuss that tombstone. So let's open it up for discussion. Who would like to go first? There's the raise your hand function. Connie, you look like you're trying to find it. Did you want to share?
Connie M.
Yes.
Hi, my name's Connie. I'm an alcoholic. Yeah. I really don't have anything to share. I love that you point that out. This is my first time to this meeting. I was so glad to find out you were on page 1. I'm like, they're probably, like I thought. So I'm just really glad to go over this because I don't get to go over this very much with people and to point out different things. Like I was lonely and again turned to alcohol, like watching those emotions and those ideas and those feelings and keeping them in balance because that's really important. I still have my human things I let cling on to, and those things will drive me to the drink in the midst of sobriety of a sane mind. And so that worries me, and I know that I'm not scared of it. I just know it's a fact of this this disease. And just like he didn't listen to his family, they probably had past stuff, and he's feeling it, and yet he didn't take this message. And I'm so glad that I'm willing to keep taking this message in this program. And I encourage everybody to do that. Thanks for calling me. It's so good to see you.
Thanks. You. All right, Irene.
I just wanted to point out that at the bottom where it says my talent for leadership would place me at the vast enterprises. I feel like that relates to me in this situation that I'm in where I found myself the co-host somehow. I have no idea. That's just how I am. I step up and do things. And it's the best possible thing that could have happened to me because people are reaching out to me and me helping these girls every day that I get so many phone calls that I just absolutely love. It's not that I'm not doing it for me because when I do it, I can feel it being more and more for me every day, but it's through helping everybody else that I'm getting there. And I just appreciate that so much.
Perfect. Thank you, Irene. We love your help. Megan M.
Hey everybody, Megan Alcoholic. With the tombstone, I remember hearing a speaker talk about whether he died by musket or pot. And the pot is referring to what they used, the alcohol, how they made the alcohol. So that's where it's not like, just it's either they died by getting killed or they died from the drink, drinking cold small beer. He's never forgotten whether he died by a musket or a pot. And the pot they're referring to is the pot that they used to brew the alcohol. So that's just all I wanted to point out.
Thank you so much. Anyone else on this page? Yvonne, thank you.
Well, I guess I have read this, I don't know how many times, but you had mentioned that I forgot the strong warnings and the prejudices, but then, so he ignored those, and then again, the ominous warning, which I failed to heed, which was on the tombstone. So it was like, it's not going to matter. It's not going to matter, which it's not going to happen to me. That's all. Thanks.
Right, exactly. It's twice on the first page he's ignoring those warnings, isn't he? Connie M. Connie, you got to hit your unmute on your side.
Now, okay.
There you go.
That?
Perfect.
Okay, good. Sorry, I just wanted to, what read to me was that grandiosity, because at the bottom where she says, my talent for leadership, I love that I imagined. And how many times I sat on the bar stool, like I imagined, and in my high school years when I was drinking in college, I was going to sail around these grandiosity ideas, and just from a bit of praise, I bring it to and I can manage, and it just shows me that I can manage. I have these great plans for myself, and so thanks.
Thank you. All right, Mel.
Yeah, I've just got seeing as nobody else said it, I don't know if it's right or not. On the tombstone, I've got that could have been the first spiritual experience that Bill had. Have you?
Yeah, and I think we refer to it again as we read more of this story. Absolutely. Yeah. Nina?
Hi, my name is Nina, and I'm an alcoholic. I am a veteran of Fort Moore. I served almost 23 years. So when I read this, I was like, oh, this is my homie. Oh, he's my road dog. And then like you had pointed out, I think I have this underlined and highlighted 3 different colors. I won't show you because my pages are kind of falling out, if you can see, But, that strong warning and prejudices of my people. What I interpreted that wasn't just like my family. That was my friends. That was my military leaders. My troops, my coworkers, the stranger, the bartender, my people, those people around us. Also, too, like everybody else is kind of pointing out too, I fancied myself a leader. Well, when I was a leader, I thought I was the one. I didn't just fancy myself. They gave the wrong alcoholic power. They promoted the wrong person. So when I was looking at this, I was going, oh, I didn't fancy myself a leader. I was a leader. I thought I was on top of the world. And then it's funny, the higher up you get, the further you have to fall down, right? But the one word that always sticks out for me, actually it's 2 words, but the one word, ominous, the foreboding. That it's kind of like that music that you hear when you're watching a movie. Dun, 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 dun. I didn't hear that. No. Don't know what happened, but I just didn't hear it. Had all the warning signs, but I didn't hear the chorus. So, I'm in agreement with everybody else. And then that talent for leadership, what my sponsor told me was that talent for leadership. She said to me, Nina, that's not talent for leadership. That's your ego. That is just your ego. I was like, oh, well, thank you for pointing that out to me. I appreciate you. Anyway, that's all I got. Thank y'all.
Thank you so much, Nina. Paula C.
Hi, I'm Paula, and I'm an alcoholic. I am liking the further up sentences talking about love, applause, moments sublime, intervals hilarious. I was part of life at last. And then to make it even better, I discovered liquor.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my youth. That was my, when I graduated high school, youth equaled invincibility. And to make it all, no matter how fantastic life was, alcohol, I thought, could make it even yet better. So, I remember feeling this way, it was just great, and it was funny, and I was part of a group, and liquor made it better. Or so I thought. That's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Anything on this page? Last call? Just scroll through in case anybody has a physical hand up. All right, moving on to page 2. I took a night law course and obtained employment as an investigator for a surety company. The drive for success was on. I'd proved to the world I was important. My work took me about Wall Street, and little by little I became interested in the market. Many people lost money, but some became very rich. Why not I? I studied economics and business as well as law. Potential alcoholic that I was, I nearly failed my law course. At one of the finals, I was too drunk to think or write. Though my drinking was not yet continuous, it disturbed my wife. We had long talks when I would still her forebodings by telling her that men of great genius conceived their best projects when drunk, that the most majestic constructions of philosophical thought were so derived. By the time I had completed the course, I knew the law was not for me. The inviting maelstrom of Wall Street had me in its grip. Business and financial leaders were my heroes. Out of this alloy of drink and speculation, I commenced to forge the weapon that one day would turn in its flight like a boomerang and all but cut me to ribbons. Living modestly, my wife and I saved $1,000. It went into certain securities, then cheap and rather unpopular. I rightly imagined that they would someday have a great rise. I failed to persuade my broker friends to send me out looking over factories and managements, but my wife and I decided to go anyways. I had developed a theory that most people lost money in stocks through ignorance of markets. I discovered many more reasons later on. All right, so on this page, lots of little things in here. So again, he talks about the potential alcoholic. Now, whether that's him speaking present tense, talking then that he knew he was a potential alcoholic, or if it's another one of those clues that maybe he had some warnings from his friends, his family, that there could be a problem. And there's a lot of worship. You know, he worshiped these people on Wall Street. He looked up to people that had money. I personally like that he took the night law course. You know, he didn't take a day course. He had to still try to earn a fast buck during the day, and he took a night law course, and then he tried to study, business and other things. And then when he was actually done it, he decided he wasn't, that wasn't for him. How many times have I started something and then got sidetracked and started other things and then finished it and went, oh, I really don't like that. Like, definitely I can relate to that. And then, saving up that little bit of money because him and his wife are going to, go off with these great ideas. I had millions of middle of the night ideas. I was going to do all of these outstanding things in the middle of the night with my great genius ideas, just like Bill had. Lauren H., what else would you like to point out?
Can you hear me?
I can.
Yes? Okay. Lauren, alcoholic. Good to see you. So what stuck out to me and what I had underlined when I went through the book with my sponsor was that he got drunk when he had his final exam, and to me that was me on my way to being an alcoholic. Anytime I had an important event, I just would screw up. I could be sober for like 3 months studying for an exam, then I go to the exam higher drunk, and to me, my sponsor would ask me, when did you do this? And I had a list of when important events would come, just wouldn't do it, like I couldn't show up for it. And to me, when she had me list these events, I thought it was one time in college, and it wasn't. It was, I couldn't tell you. And I never thought about that until she asked me about that. Like, how were you like Bill? You know, how were you like him? You know, like you said, all these great ideas. I get drunk and I was going to save the world, cure cancer, do all these things from the bar stool, right? And then, but now that I'm sober over 5 years, I'm able to do some of those things that I wanted to do when I was sitting on the bar stool saying I was going to do all these things. And like you said, where he decided law wasn't for him, he was going to follow, you know, his fellows on Wall Street or whatever. And for me, you know, I started out in college. I was going to go straight to law school from college. And guess what? None of that happened because I got sidetracked doing a bunch of other things, you know, following the crowd, as my sponsor would call it, following the crowd and just, you know, doing things. And guess what? It never worked out for me. So I just wanted to mention that because the first time I went through with a different sponsor, she didn't point that out. And now that you read it, I just wanted to point out what was pointed out to me. So that's all I have. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. And then there's the ideas that aren't so great anymore once you're 5 years sober, right? Like, you're like, oh, why did I say that? Megan M.
Hi, everybody. Megan Alcoholic. Once again, you know, and it keeps, like you said, Kim, like, you know, it keeps pointing out that, you know, other people are seeing it before he's seeing it. You know, his wife, it's that though drinking was not continuous, it disturbed my wife. So other people are seeing your problem before you're actually seeing it on the outside. You know, I remember my old sponsor used to say it's really hard for you to see what's going on when you're actually in the picture. You know, like when you're in a picture, you can't see what's going on around you, but everybody else can see what's going on in the picture. And you know, I highlighted out of his alloy to drink and speculation, I commenced to forge the weapon that one day would turn into this flight like a boomerang, all but cut me into ribbons. It's like, you know, he, like you said, he was praising alcohol, but he didn't know it was going to come back and like bite him in the ass at some point. You know, and then also I proved to the world I was important. Oh my God. Like that was like, you know, anytime I drank, that's what I felt like I had to do. I had to show everybody that like, this is, you know, I'm the best, you know, I'm the best ever. And, you know, I always thought you know, like I also, I love to sing. And I used to think that I sang better when I was drunk. And for a little while, it did work out for me. You know, that was always my thought process. But then eventually, once my progression got so bad, I started forgetting words, like singing completely out of tune, you know, and that's when I crossed that line. And the same thing, you know, I always said I would never drink at work, and I cut hair. And I was like, wow, I don't, you know, I'm not too bad drunk cutting hair. So, you know, let me try this. It was really like scary at the end. That was like, you know, my awakening that like I'm in trouble now because now I'm doing this at work. So, but yeah, it's just the progression showing already, like, you know, very early how these little things are like, hey, this is a problem. This is a problem. And he's like, you know, just totally not aware of what's going on. So thanks for letting me share.
Thank you. V.
Oh, am I unmuted?
Yes, you are.
Oh, hey guys. I just relate to everything on this. The drive for success was on. Boom, right? Being a workaholic as well as an alcoholic. I totally related to that. And then the sentence, though my drinking was not yet continuous, it disturbed my wife. Well, I would put it disturbed my kids. And, you know, the warning, it just reminded me of those warning signs back in the day and them questioning it, you know, and yet I was like the single mom, you know, the super mom trying to get everything done for the kids and blah, blah, blah. So, you know, I was what do you call it? I could hold my drinking in check. You know, I'd appeared at the outside that I was keeping it together, but, you know, the signs were coming, right? And I'm really, really stoked to find this group and be reading this book. Thank you. With you guys.
Thank you. Jeanette.
Hi, everyone. Jeanette Alcoholic. And I too, what popped out on this page was, that my drinking was not yet continuous, and yet it disturbed my wife. In my case, it was my husband, and he would, say things like, "Geez, don't you think you're drinking a little too much, or you're drinking again?" And I rightly imagined the delusions of grandeur that I could have when I was drinking, and the excuses that I could make why I had to drink that day. I don't have that in my life today, and I'm so grateful. So thank you for letting me share.
Thank you. Well, for me, I was with an untreated alcoholic, so I was telling him he had a problem. Meanwhile, I was keeping up. just totally bizarre. He thought my ideas were great too. Monica.
Hi friends, my name is Monica. I'm an alcoholic. The part I was looking at was by the time I had completed the course, I knew the law was not for me. And what that reminds me of is he wanted to do all these things. The good intentions were there to, just want to practice the law, and when it actually came for the time to practice the law, he didn't want the commitments or all the responsibilities, because we as alcoholics are very irresponsible when I am anyway, when I'm practicing, and just proving to others and proving to the world that he wanted to do all these things just to feel good about himself, but he just couldn't get it, and I can relate to that, just to that line. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Valerie. Oh. There you go.
Hi, Valerie, alcoholic. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Great. I was just thinking about how in this story here, it was talking about how, in the beginning, I think like when I first came to the rooms, the spiritual sickness, how, I just needed to catch up. And for me, that was doing more, and I also got into school and took 21 units and, realized the people, places, and things, my triggers when I was in school, and decided not to go through with the career that I was choosing. So I think that what it reminds me of is when we get sober, and we've all heard this in the room, we come for our drinking, but we stay for our thinking. And for me, that's true. I have to be mindful of, why I'm doing what I'm doing in my life and what my motives are. And I think that Bill talks about it in this story where he's discovering the process and learning what's going to work in his life as a new sober person. So I just wanted to share that. I thought it was apparent.
Thank you so much. Nicole K.
Hi, good morning. Nicole, alcoholic. Yeah, I too like was it Marjorie? I'm not sure, but for me, what's sticking out here is by the time I completed the course, I knew it wasn't for me. The inviting Wall Street, right? The quick, easy money, the quick, easy gratification. Like as an alcoholic, for me, that's what, I wasn't feeling good or things weren't going my way. It just bounces me into that, I know, I'll have a drink and I'll feel better. And here, it's although it's not drinking, to me, it's let's find the easier way, right? If I do the law, I got to be diligent, disciplined, routine. And the Wall Street thing seemed pretty, high and mighty and fun and like, Rat Pack Vegas. So, of course, he would just rather go and do the fun things. Like I know I did. I was never very good at school or anything. I was always out. Okay, what's people doing? Let's go, right? Skip school. Let's go do whatever, even in college. Needless to say, I didn't really graduate anything, but I did take all kinds of different things, but nothing ever got completed, right? Jack of all trade and master of none. That was definitely me. So that would stick out there too. And at 22, I assume he's only a little bit older here. All those warnings he got, I don't know about you at 22, but I would think, oh, that's, that's for other people. That's not for me. Anyway, thanks for letting me share, guys.
Thank you so much. That's so funny because I have my floral diploma, I have my dental assisting diploma, and then I went and got my accounting degree. Oh, yeah. And now I own my own business because I don't like to work 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. I get that. Rio.
Hi, everybody. My name's Rio. I'm an alcoholic. The thing that gets me is the out of the alloy of drink. So I think alloy is like the metal. So that drink to me, that talks about the allergy. And then it says it commenced to forge the weapon. So that's something created or built. And I think that's the obsession of the mind, right? That drink and that allergy is the metal or the hard stuff that got myself triggered into that crazy obsessive drinking, because nobody cuts you to ribbons the way you do yourself. Like, I think that's just common for all of us to understand. And it wasn't until I've read this with you all together that I've realized that that's probably, even whether he knows it or not, he's already trying to reinforce the allergy of the body and the obsession of the mind there.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yes, and people are popping in the chat that definition of alloy is that combination of two different things that come together to make one. Quickly get through the last two and then move on. Mel?
Yeah, I've just, what sort of I could relate to was the trying to my way of thinking, almost strong-willed, but like my way of thinking to try and win round the other person. Like he's saying that he had long talks and he would still up forebodings and telling her that men of genius conceive their best projects when drunk. Like, that's what's going to happen to me, and don't think otherwise. I don't, he doesn't want anybody putting any doubt on what he had in his head to do. And then at the bottom where we gave up our positions and off we rode on a motorcycle, it's just, you can just see the strong will coming out in what he was doing.
Yeah.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephanie? Whoops. Try. Mute button, tug of war. Okay, you do it. There we go.
Okay, am I unmuted?
Yes.
Awesome. I just noticed that he's completely in the insanity of alcoholism and doesn't even know it, probably because he doesn't have the solution yet. And it's only, like, as alcoholics, it's only until we exhaust every other avenue and try everything else that we maybe will admit to ourselves, maybe I have a problem. So that's all I wanted to add.
Thank you. All right, let's move on. We gave up our positions and off we roared on a motorcycle, the sidecar stuffed with tent, blankets, a change of clothes, and 3 huge volumes of a financial reference service. Our friends thought a lunacy commission should be appointed. Perhaps they were right. I had had some success at speculation, so we had a little money. But we once worked on a farm for a month to avoid drawing on our small capital. That was the last honest manual labor on my part for many a day. We covered the whole eastern United States in a year. At the end of it, my reports to Wall Street procured me a position there and the use of a large expense account. The exercise of an option brought in more money, leaving us with a profit of several $1,000s for that year. For the next few years, fortune threw money and applause my way. I had arrived. My judgment and ideas were followed by many to the tune of paper millions. The great boom of the late 20s was seething and swelling. Drink was taking an important and exhilarating part in my life. There was loud talk in the jazz places uptown. Everyone spent in thousands and chattered in millions. Scoffers could scoff and be damned. I made a host of fair weather friends. My drinking assumed more serious proportions, continuing all day and almost every night. The remonstrances of my friends terminated in a row, and I became a lone wolf. There were many unhappy scenes in our sumptuous apartment. There had been no real infidelity, for loyalty to my wife, helped at many times by extreme drunkenness, kept me out of those scrapes. So there's a lot in there. I love Lois. Good Lois. He's like, come on, honey, let's go. Get in the sidecar. Here we're off on an adventure. All right, Bill, let's go. And there they went, Their friends are all saying, you guys are insane. This is a really bad idea. And he's still saying, oh no, I know better than you. And then, of course, he probably got a little bit of more of that chip on his shoulder, that ego, when he did have some success. So back he comes and he gets this position and he's like, see, I told you. I knew what I was talking about. I was right. So, and then, of course, he had arrived. And I know that feeling well. I had that false sense of me. And I'm like, I know I'm important. I'm getting that limelight. So those scoffers could scoff. So still he doesn't like opinions of people who contrast him, and he has a lot of fair weather friends. Now, who hasn't had a couple of those? I haven't heard from them in a while, but I'm sure they're still out there. I pray for them. And then, of course, his drinking's getting worse and worse. And Lois is getting a little bit upset with him, but you kind of see a little bit of his ego there where he's like, I'm not a cheater. But, it's that loyalty to his wife, which is fueled by his ego because he doesn't want that reputation, plus extreme drunkenness. So he kind of had that, whiskey issue where he probably wasn't useful to any women he met in the bars. All right, Bev, what do you have on this page?
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Bev. I'm an alcoholic. Well, first I'd like to say, if you have not seen it, you can get it on your local on-demand cable or whatever you use, satellite. My name is Bill W. And it is a fabulous movie. My husband and I had an opportunity several years ago to see a play of it that was put on here in Richmond. But then I went, since I had some extra time on my hands, and found the movie on TV, and I highly recommended it. Lois's story is also there. I have not watched that one yet, but anyway, I just wanted to say that ever since the top of page 1, you can see the steady progression of the alcoholism. This disease is progressive and it's fatal, and that's my experience. I've seen that happen, and I was close to the fatal end when I got back to AA this time, but it almost appears in every single page that you could liken him to the insanity of a bipolar. He would go from the manic stage and the grandiosity and the we're going to do this and then, this, and then there's the depression. There's the, I can't get out of it. But my drinking assumed more serious proportions, continuing all day and into the night. The remonstrances of my friends terminated in a row, and I became a lone wolf. Well, that's what happens to us as alcoholics. That's certainly what happened to me. At the end of my alcoholism, I was in the back of my first floor, locked behind doors in what was the hallway, a bedroom, a computer room, and a bathroom. And I would stay locked there and drink and drink and drink and drink. So yes, clearly the progression is there and it's getting worse and worse. And, Lois, yeah, she's the good old girl. She's going to stand by his side. But she's got her reservation. She's seeing the light bulbs go off. So that's it. That's all I have.
Thank you so much. Lois G.
Yes, my name is Lois. And it's funny. I'm always drawn to the part about the wife because I not only am an alcoholic, but I was married to a few of them. So it the codependency part of Lois, always fascinates me because back on the page before, they had long talks to still her foreboding. She already knew there was a problem. And then she jumped on that motorcycle. I don't think she jumped on that motorcycle for a vacation. I think she jumped on that motorcycle because she wanted to make sure she could keep an eye on him. That's our manipulating spirit. That's what we do as codependent people. It's just amazing. It goes on and it says his last work was working on a farm, but yet you go on in the story and she's working, he's stealing money from her. He's not really cheating on her, but yet you get the inference that there could have been had he had been not quite so drunk. So, it's just amazing to me the way he weaves this story, the way he goes through the whole progression of the alcoholic, not only for him, but for her as well, that she's affected just as much as he is with this alcoholism. So thanks for letting me share.
Thank you. Yeah, I completely identify with Lois because I've been the wife married to the alcoholic, but I also was the alcoholic too, so I can see both parts. Tina, I know you want to put your hand up. There you go.
Hi, thank you, Kimberly. I'm Tina, alcoholic. Knowing the story, as we all do, this is like the perfect storm right before the big crash of 1931, I think it was. And he's living high on the hog. He's having a good old time. He's not thinking twice about anything. He's got some money. He's got his woman. He's doing good, and he doesn't see what's coming around the corner. He has no idea. And then it comes, kind of like our coronavirus. Boom, there it is. It came from nowhere. And then what? And if you're in the position that he was in at that particular time, I assume it's going to hit you really, really hard. And being that we weren't living in the solution then, we had no idea what to do or how to take care of ourselves. They put us in institutions, in insane asylums, because there was no other choice. There was no place else to go, because we hadn't found the solution yet. And, poor man, and Lois, it's a really, really critical time in his story because it's right before the big fall, in his alcoholism, in his life. And it's significant. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you so much. And good thing to point out too is we do have newcomers in the group that don't know the whole story yet, so more is to be revealed. Michelle O.
Hi friends, my name is Michelle. I'm an alcoholic. Something that really jumped out at me today was this line: "That was the last honest manual labor on my part for many a day." How many times? I was a high school dropout, and I would get such great jobs or offers for jobs, and I would go to work holding my breath on the elevator, going up the elevator, thinking that that alcohol, they couldn't smell the alcohol, and showing up at work with my hands shaking, and that's how I would work. I was half there. And I had employers that would take pity on me and allowed me to go to treatment to get better. That was truly a gift from God. But this really jumped out at me that I really never did any honest work because I was too hungover, or I was obsessing about the next drink, or whatever the case may be. But yeah, I really, really can relate to this. Anyway, thank you for letting me share.
Thank you so much. And a question from the chat. And, we always like to have our dictionaries going at the same time because this book uses a lot of words we don't know. So a scoffer is defined as someone who jeers or mocks or treats something in contempt or calls out in derision. A disagreeable person, unpleasant person. A person who is not pleasant or agreeable. So it's usually one of those judgmental folks who doesn't like what we're doing and scoffs at it because they haven't investigated it. Susan T.
Hi, I'm Susan. I'm an alcoholic. And just the line where it says there had been no real infidelity. Real infidelity? That's real infidelity and not real infidelity. So some people that I've gone through the book with said that's the first time and maybe the only time that Bill has lied in this book. Thanks.
I love it. Nina. Oh, Nina's not there. We'll come back to Nina. There you are. Okay.
So I want to just point out from the previous page on page 2, I have this nice little line. I proved to the world that I was important, and then I have a line right down there to page 3 that says, I had arrived. So there, all that stuff that goes in between. I like also what somebody said, that there was that real infidelity. I don't know about anybody else, but I couldn't have a relation. I tried to balance a relationship with my drinking, but the truth was my lover was the bottle, was 3 fingers of Crown and a Heineken back. That was my lover. It made love to me. It understood me. It didn't question me. It didn't criticize me. It always told me I was beautiful. It lulled me to sleep. It cheered me on when I was nervous, and it lifted me up for support. Almost no infidelity. I love that. That was my, and actually, I don't even think it was almost. 3 marriages down, and I'm telling you, that was my marriage. I should have been married to the bottle. I wonder if I could have gotten alimony for that. Anyway.
I love you, Nina. Oh, yeah. So good. Joanne.
Hi. So, I love holding what we read and what we're reading and kind of create a storyline. And for what I see and how I identify with this is when he starts at the beginning and says, with the love and applause, he had arrived. But then he went over to war, and he was lonely, and he turned to alcohol. And so for me, there was a hole inside of me, and when I found alcohol, it filled the hole. But then life happened, and at 22 years old, he went to war. What comes to mind is the saying, an egomaniac with an inferiority complex. And so here, 22 years old, I mean, my story when I was really young, I hung out with a lot of veterans of foreign wars. They would drink and they would try to tell some of their story, but they all had PTSD, from serving. And the way they coped with it was drinking. But but where I identify with him is that I looked for things to confirm that I could control my life. So he talks about being a leader, and he talks about trying to get someplace, but yet who he is inside, the internal work that hasn't been done, he's terrified. So of course he's going for tests. He's bringing his courage with him. His coping mechanism is with the booze. And he still, as the story goes, he keeps trying to control everything. And yet he comes up short. And then when he does finally think, he's finally arrived, it just doesn't match what he knows inside of him, because there's always it's never enough. I need more. And so in terms of the alcoholism, we read his drinking, but if you really look, is the mental and spiritual deprivation that was behind him, that eventually down the road we'll find out once he got sober he had to work on. And that's it. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Michelle, Arizona.
Hi, my name is Michelle, alcoholic, Arizona. I'm reading this, and something when it says that relationships with friends terminated in a row, and I became a lone wolf. There have been many unhappy scenes in our sumptuous apartment. There have been no real infidelity. I'm not sure if he's talking about unhappy scenes with his friends or with his wife. It doesn't seem clear, but what it did for this alcoholic is make her remember, I didn't like the taste of beer, so I didn't drink in high school. It wasn't until I visited my mother-in-law, and she had this ritual that was called the cocktail hour. And so my first love affair became with the gin and tonic in the summer on the beach. And what happened for me is that cocktail hour came home with me, and then instead of 5 o'clock, it became 4 o'clock, and then 3 o'clock. The disease had started to progress. And around that time, I remember my husband saying to me, Michelle, it would be one thing if you're a happy drunk, but you're not. You're an ugly drunk. And this is what it reminded me of. I don't hear much talk about the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but it definitely was part of my story. And I'm sure a lot of other people can relate and identify. At first, I was a real bubbly social drinker, and that was not to be the case further on. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, we'll get to that part of the story. Don't worry. Elizabeth.
Hi. So I related a lot to this paragraph and just Bill's story in general. But, you know, when he says, I had arrived, I mean, that's like part of the big book that always sticks out to me because, you know, it makes me think of, and it's common, I think, for most of us, like all the things that we did to fill up what's on the inside with outside things, right? So he's obsessed with his career, and of course that derails him further and further into alcoholism. And for me, you know, I mean, I'm a lawyer, and when I became a lawyer, like I've had a drinking problem going way back when, and when I first became a lawyer, I thought that would fix all of my internal issues. And you know, it gradually my drinking got worse and worse. Like even though I was, you know, workaholic and focused on all these outside things, until I found myself like completely spiritually bankrupt and drinking more than ever before because I was focused on all the wrong things. So that's it. That's all that the story made me think of. Thanks.
Thank you. Raven.
I'm Raven. I'm an alcoholic. I could relate to on page 3, second paragraph. It says, drinking was taking an important and exhilarating part in my life. And then past that, my drinking assumed more serious proportions, continuing all day and almost every night. Like holy flashbacks from like my teenage years. Like I'm still young, I'm 29, but like just how important it was, like that obsession, that like needing it and wanting it, and like even before picking up the drink, you know, that was all I could think about, and that's all I wanted to do, and to not have that today is a blessing. Thanks.
Thank you. A question from the chat was, what is sumptuous? So sumptuous is splendid and expensive looking. So a simpler is fancy. It was a fancy apartment. Charlene. Oh, hang on.
I guess I could unmute myself. But
I just thought of that too.
Thank you. Charlene, alcoholic. Someone had said from progression to fatality, it's like from 0 to 90. That's my life. Like that's how I've always lived my life. 0. A mental health seminar type thing, and I made my mom come with me, and one of the things that stuck out was he said, you know, addicts go from 0 to 90, and when they're recovering and, you know, getting better, it actually comes out even more so. And my mom kind of looked at me and she's like, oh my God, that's you. And I'm like, yeah. So I don't know, that's just how my brain works. And it's kind of here in Bill's story as well, right? Like, there's no middle ground there. It's like he, you know, was in school, he made some money, then they ran away. You know, he started working, making a whole bunch of money, and was immediately a drunk. You know, it's like, yep, I can completely relate to that because that's been my whole life. I also have 2 diplomas. Like, I, you know, went to school every 2 years. I want to change my profession. What am I going to do next? What's the next big thing? You know, and it's great that I can finally be able to kind of pull back the reins a bit and you know, look at what's actually going on here and read this story and say, okay, there's hope. So that's all I got.
Thank you so much. And with that, we're going to end today's session. We'll stop at the bottom of page 3, and next time we'll pick back up.